Hi there, this is Dr. Buddy with Project 6. Now with Project 6 we now have the tools where we can start to do some real data analysis. And what I like to do is grab some real data, do a little bit of analysis on them, and then do some output and often do some plotting of some sort. So immigration and immigrants are in the news. What is the real data? And what's neat about once you've learned how to program is you can go to the source. In this case, go to the census and get the data that there is on immigrants and see how many there are around here. So we look at two sets of data in two different files, one from the year 2000, another one from the year 2016. Actually, what the Census Department does is they do a census every 10 years, which is mandated by the Constitution, and in between they'll actually collect some other information that can be useful for the government. In this case, there's some immigrant data. There's actually a ton of data in here, and we're only interested in a couple of the columns. And even the data file that we're starting with is a subset of the data that's actually available for these years. Now, the two files we have different formats, so we have to read them differently, but we'll open them the same. So what I'm going to look at today is just what do these files look like, and what's the base, some of the basic things that we're going to deal with here. So we start out, as we do with many of these, we give you a file to start with, and that file has a bunch of functions. Right? We got a bunch of functions that you have to write. We give you the plotting function, and in fact, the one right before the plotting function, which is called the make list for the plot, that gives us a way to test that you're generating the right data that you can then send to the actual plotting. So that lets us test it on Mirror because we can't test the plots on Mirror. Those will be done by your TA. And then in the main program, that's where we'll call these different functions, open the files, read the files, and then do some calculations on it in the calc totals. And then collect up the data after that, so that we can do some plotting. And one of the ways we handle this is that we will always prompt for, do you want to plot the data? And so on our mirror test, the answer to those questions will always be no, because we can't test them on mirror. So let's take a look at the data, one of the data files. I've opened it up as an Excel spreadsheet, and there's a few things you can note here, like the states are in the column 0, 1, 2 here, and there's actually there are two header rows, and then there are 51 states, and 50 states plus the District of Columbia. It doesn't include territories such as Puerto Rico. Now, what's in here? Well, there are lots and lots and lots of columns of data here, and we're only interested in some of them. And so what we do is we ask you, or we have you create a function called find index that takes the header, the first header that's on there, and then a string, and tells you the index that where that particular string is, so that, for example, the count of native-born residents is in the column that is labeled with this weird collection of characters. doesn't mean anything to us, but what you will do is you will use this string, pass it into the header there, and that will return a value. So what we're going to do is, take this string, obviously it will, and then pass that in as the argument, and then what does this do is this returns the index, which is an int. So for example, I think maybe this comes out to be 257 or something like that. But we want you to write your program so that you are finding these indices based upon these specifications that are in the header. So in that column we find the native-born citizens, in this column the naturalized, and in this column are non-citizens, and those will be the three categories of people that we'll be looking at, and we calculate a couple of ratios, and then we specify for that ratio we need a total, which will be the denominators, and that'll be the native plus the naturalized plus the non-citizens. So those three categories of people, and for each state we build one tuple with this information, with these 6 pieces of information in that order, and what we return is a list of tuples, and we have you sort that list because sorting now allows us so that we have a sort of a canonical representation that we can then test with mirror. So the sorting is really so that we get the testing on there. So we read the 2016 file that way. We do something similar with the year 2000 file, but things are different there in that these strings are have different values in the two files, and we have to open files, so we have a file, an open file function. Error checking is required in there. You will want to use a try except block as part of that. But again, I always I start writing my program and I hard code the opening of the file. But we definitely want to try except, and so you'll build actually this function, and we're going to reuse this function many times. And once we've read the data in, then we'll calculate some totals, and then we'll prepare the lists, and it will be then prepared for prompting. And in the main, we are going to generate a table of information, and this is what it looks like. Okay, so we print all the information for 2016, and then we find the totals there, and then out of the year 2000 file we also have the totals. So now you can look and see what's going on in the year 2000 and 2016 in terms of the percentage of non-citizens, for example, that we have, and we're going to sort this information on percentage of non-citizens going from less than 1% in West Virginia up to essentially 12% in California. And then we'll also plot those values so that you can graphically see that that we have that the plot is this little bar graph here, and it's got the native, the naturalized, and the non-citizens, and you can see how this has changed from the year 2000 to the year 2016. Okay, so what else might we deal with here? And that's let me give you a little bit of an example. So what I've done here is I've opened this file. Now you'll actually use your open file function, but I'm just illustrating here. And what I usually do is first thing I do is I always see if I can just open and print the file. And you see you get a lot of information here because these things are huge. And one of the things that you're interested in is the header. So I can print that header. And let me comment out these for the moment, so we can see what the header looks like. And there's the header, and you can see it's got all these sort of weird headings on there, and it gives you an idea as to how large this file is. You can see all the different headers that are involved there. So that'll be something that we'll be interested in, and we don't need to print that anymore. And because we're dealing with lists, each time we'll want to make a list out of each line that I'm reading in. I usually like to strip off the carriage returns before I split it. And you'll notice that this is a comma separated value file, so we'll be splitting on commas. And again, I always take this one step at a time, make sure everything's going okay. So now I've got lists of values. All right, that's good. What else might I be interested in? Well, we took a look there, and the name of the state was in the second index. Again, I like to strip junk out of there, and let's see if we can in fact print the states. And we do. There's all my states. They're coming out. Looks like alphabetical order there. Now what we need to do is find an index. And so in my here in my instructions, we want the native born residents, and they are in this ESTVC 197, and that uses our find index function. So that's my native population. And where is it? Well, we will find the index. Right, that's a function that we have. We actually have to give it a list of my header. So that's the first argument. And then the second argument is this weird looking string. And with that index, I'll get some kind of a value out of that, which is at that index. And I can print that value. And I think what I'm going to do is print the state and the value, so just so that we can take a look at it. Let's see, I still have, I haven't written this find index function, but I did. I just created a little file here so that I could use that function without showing it to you. So I'll just import that function. Now I've got everything, and when I run this, we see things like, okay, Wyoming and 566,645. Let's see if I actually got the right stuff here. Here's Wyoming, 566,645. So I have successfully gotten the native population values here. I could double check. There's Wisconsin. It looks like it's 5.49 million there for Wisconsin. Where's Wisconsin? Well, let's see. There it is, 5.4 million. All right, so looks like I am getting the right information there based on the project description. So what have I really done here is I have opened this file up. Oops. I have opened the file. Now you'll actually use the open file function to do that. I've grabbed a header and made a list out of it. But remember, there are two headers, so you'll want to do this read line twice in there and grab the right one. It's actually the first one that we're interested in, but you got to handle the second one, otherwise this part will blow up. Then I made, so I went through every line in the file, and I made a list, grabbed the state, found an index, found a value for that, and here I just simply printed it out just so I could check values that I had. What you're going to do is get all, we read in 3 values and then do a couple of ratios, and so you need to build a tuple and then append that onto a list, and then you will sort the list and then return it. So so this is just a way for us to go through this file, build up the information by state, excuse me, and then return it. And this, what we've just gone through here, is taking a look at, we were just reading the 2016 file. So there's there's a little bit of an outline of how you do the 2016. The 2000 is similar, and then then we do some calculation of some totals, and with that in the main, we will build our table in there, and then we will create the lists for plotting. And if the answer is to in fact that we want to plot, then we will take the 3 lists that I have there, pass them to the plotting, and we should in fact get a plot such as you see in the description. Okay, so hopefully that gives you enough to get started with this. Good luck.